Yes, guys, welcome back to Kosi's Arsenal podcast. My name is Kosi, back again. We're gonna discuss a lot, especially in terms of Arsenal transfers. EMI Buendia, his decision. What does it mean? Where does it leave us? Now, there's so many reports saying that he has decided to join Arsenal, but I think the real story is he would love to leave Norwich at the end of this season. So we're gonna discuss that. We're going to discuss the future of Joe Willock, and I'm already biased about Joe Willock, so you people know what I'm gonna say. But there are reports that he could have, we could have a 30 million deal of Joe Willock to Newcastle. I'm just asking myself, if Joe Willock is 30 million. That makes sense, doesn't it? And of course, more and more transfer news from Arsenal. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much. We've hit I think 300 subscribers off the 20,000 mark. That really means a lot. So let us keep the subscriptions going in. Let's keep the likes going up, and of course your comments. And the question today in this video is very, very simple. If EMI Buendia signed for Arsenal, would you keep Odegaard on loan, or would you just have one of them? That's the question I have in this video. Do you want Arsenal to keep Odegaard at the club and then sign EMI Buendia as well? Something that I think would be so fascinating. Or would you want just one of them? In my opinion, like I said, it would be fascinating. You'd have Martin Odegaard as your number 10, and then you could put actually you would have EMI Buendia as your number 10, and then you could make Odegaard as your you'd give him that free role, which I think would be very, very, very interesting to see. But anyway, let's get into it. Buendia has been in the news, I think, for the past 48 hours. Stories have been so strong, and it indicates something, because we've been talking to him, I think, since January. We've been talking about EMI Buendia, and we have we've had some contact between the club and Buendia. Talks were cut before February. That's what I know. But in the meantime, reports have indicated that Edu will be going in to add another offer to Norwich, and of course Norwich are under no pressure. That's what they're saying, that they're under no pressure to release the player. However, they have also released a statement saying that they will not stand in the way of any player at the end of this season. In this summer, they will not stand in the way of any player, whether Buendia or Todd Cantwell or Max Aarons. Whoever wants to leave will leave, and whoever wants to stay will stay. So we're gonna discuss EMI Buendia's interest in Arsenal, which I think is a little bit genuine as compared to other stories. I think the story is genuine, based on the fact that I think there is no player that doesn't want to play for Arsenal, especially if you're in the championship. If you've been playing in the championship, you want to play for Arsenal. It's not a downgrade, it's an upgrade. Actually, a very big upgrade that would make any player nervous at one point in time. So I've had stories like Buendia wouldn't want to sign for Arsenal. Arsenal do not have the money to sign EMI Buendia. Buendia can't choose Arsenal. I think that is all trash. If you put it in a realistic perspective, Buendia is a player who really, really fits the ambitions of Arsenal at the moment, because like I'll discuss later, Mikel Arteta said him and Edu are selling a viable project to Arsenal prospects, and we shall talk about that, the viable project. Of course, it brought players like William, it brought players like Gabriel Magalhaes, it brought in players like Martin Odegaard on loan, and you can see all reports have been reporting that the player is actually in love with Arsenal and Mikel Arteta's project. So it looks like when these players are coming in, it's not more of what Arsenal has achieved and what Arsenal is going through, but the future. It looks like they're trying to sell a project for the future. That is how we are managing to beat off competition from clubs like Manchester United, Chelsea, Liverpool, and PSG. Because for Gabriel, if you still remember, Napoli were priorities, United were there as well, PSG also reportedly wanted the player, but then he chose Arsenal. It looks like there is something extra we are doing in trying to convince these players to stay. I don't know what it is, and probably I can't guess what it is, but we shall know. Now, according to one credible source, the name is Ekrem Kono. He says EMI Buendia wants to go to Arsenal, and he say Arsenal wanted EMI Buendia during the last transfer period, but his transfer was not completed. Negotiations are now continuing where they left off. So Buendia wants to go to Arsenal. First and foremost, I think among all the clubs interested in the player, unless there is someone new, but among all the clubs that are interested in the player, we are biggest. The likes of Aston Villa, the likes of Everton. Everton have done incredibly well this season. Villa have also been spectacular this season. But I think if you're a player, Villa, Everton, Arsenal, you want to join the biggest, I think it's going to be Arsenal at the end of the day. I don't mean to brag. I have no rights to brag against Everton and Aston Villa this season. They've been better than us on the pitch and off the pitch. I think they've been so brilliant. But there is no way Buendia is going to choose Aston Villa over Arsenal unless we don't give him the right amount of money he wants, unless we don't give him the right deal and conditions he wants. But if we give him the same conditions, if we put him under the same conditions that the likes of Aston Villa and Everton, hopefully he will sign for Arsenal. And I'm not surprised that he wants to make that move. I'm not surprised that Buendia wants to go to Arsenal. Like I said, we are still a big club. We still have that pedigree. We still have that. We still have that heritage. We still have that history tagged along our name. The only problem is the last 5 years, Arsenal has been a disgrace. That's the name. That's the word. We've been a disgrace. But again, we've managed to lure a couple of signings to the club. The likes of Pierre Aubameyang from Dortmund, the likes of Alexander Lacazette within that period of time, the likes of Thomas Partey, the likes of Ban Leno. So you can see there are not so many players that are rejecting Arsenal because of what's going on. The only reason as to why we can't make decent signings, for me, is the money. And if there is any reason as to why Arsenal will not sign Buendia at the end of the season, it's going to be money. At the end of the road, Arsenal has always had money issues. And I was watching Statman Dave today, and he was saying the only way to fix Arsenal if we regress to our earlier transfer policies. And for me, it makes a lot of sense. If you look at how we are recruiting players today, the likes of Partey, the likes of Aubameyang, for me it doesn't make a lot of sense to recruit one player per year and then another player the next year, because that's what we are doing. We sign Aubameyang this year, the next year we sign Partey, the next year. By the time you finish setting up the squad, the players you bought first are gonna be old. I mean, it doesn't make sense. But it would make sense if we regress. And for me, regressing to earlier stages is not bad. It's never been bad in life. If you go back to the earlier stages, for the better. People love moving forward. Projects love moving forward. But at times you need to go back to those earlier stages where you were doing better because it is safe. So if we go back to the days where we could sign players like Alexander Sombilong, players that have never had their debuts on a big stage, it would make a lot of sense. Yeah, Buendia is an interesting player. Odegaard is interesting as well. But do you have the money? If you're buying Buendia this season and then you plan to buy Bissouma next season, and then the following season, then you'll go for probably a centre back. The next 4 seasons, in the next 3 seasons ahead, you'll need to replace your strikers. When you replace your strikers, your midfielders will have grown. You need to replace your midfielders. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for us to sign one or two players per year. So I think we need to either revise our transfer policy, reduce the amount of money we pay for players, the likes of Pepe, the likes of Aubameyang, bring in the young strikers, bring in the young players, but bring in 3 or 4 per transfer window. That's how you're gonna build the project that is sustainable first and foremost. Because if you brought in 4 players that are 20 year or that are 20 years of age, that means they're gonna grow together. They're gonna build that chemistry, and in the next 5-6 years, you're gonna have a project. That's what the City have done. City have not bought 1 player per year. The likes of Chelsea, look at what Chelsea did in the summer. They brought in almost 5 quality players: Ziyech, Havertz, Werner. Of course, they have Mendy in goal, Chilwell. They brought in 5 or 6 players, and that's a project that's gonna run for the next 4 or 5 years. So what Arsenal is trying to do is not bad. Because financially, we cannot manage to spend 100 million like Chelsea. We can't manage to spend 200 million like PSG. But also spending 40 million this year, and then spending another 40 million, 45 million in the next 2 years, you're causing starvation. And I think that's the reason as to why we find ourselves in a very difficult transfer situation right now. We have almost 6 priority areas. This has never happened at Arsenal. If you still remember, under Arsene Wenger, what we used to do was so easy. We would go and get in 3 players in the midfield and one defender, and then in the next season, we would go and bring in a striker probably, and 2 defenders. That is how things were. That's how things were done under Arsene Wenger. We didn't win a lot of trophies, but it was a sustainable project. At the moment, you ask me if our projects are sustainable, I don't know. But still, talking about EMI Buendia, we are lucky, and I said this with Bissouma. And I'm saying this with EMI Buendia. Nothing has been confirmed yet. I need to confirm before I can celebrate. But I think we are lucky. First and foremost, we are lucky that the likes of EMI Buendia are players that are so accomplished, very, 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 very strong in terms of quality. We are very lucky that they are available at such a price and with less competition. If you, if you look at how Manchester United signed Bruno Fernandes, I still ask myself, how did they get him without any competition? Yes, Barcelona were interested, and I think that only shows you how weak Barcelona are. But United signed Bruno Fernandes without a lot of competition, and they took advantage of the situation. You've got to give them credit, because we've seen the likes of Arsenal fail to take advantage of situations. You know the stories. I don't want to repeat them. We've had chances to sign world-class stars without competition, and we have failed to go for it. So at the moment, we have EMI Buendia, a player who wants to go for Arsenal, a player whose price tag is understandable, 35-40 million pounds. That is understandable. Nobody's ever gonna question Arsenal for having signed EMI Buendia for that much. No one is ever gonna question us. It is just a matter of going for the deal. It's just the right time. You're just lucky, and that's it. There is nothing to talk about. There is nothing to say. Arsenal have signed EMI Buendia. At the end of the day, that would be the headline. They have been lucky. I don't think we deserve to have such a player. That's the truth. I don't think we deserve to have him. Probably we need to go for players that are even lower quality. But to build the project we've got to risk. Buendia is the right risk. So he wants to join Arsenal. That's according to sources. Let us wait and see how things are gonna roll up. Put in your questions in the comment box. What do you think about EMI Buendia? And of course, you can ask any question about that deal. I'll be able to answer. But the question for me is, do you keep him? Do you keep Odegaard and bring in EMI Buendia, or do you just bring in one of them? In my opinion, if Arsenal have the guts to do it, keep Odegaard and then bring in EMI Buendia. That is an ambitious team. That's an ambitious club. That's a club that shows that we are remorseful of finishing 8th, 9th. But the moment you're not remorseful, what's gonna happen is you're always gonna do things the way Arsenal have always done them. But anyway, let's get into other news around the club in the last 15 minutes. Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur, according to Corriere dello Sport, Arsenal and Tottenham Hotspur are both interested in Roma's 19-year-old midfielder Ebrima Dabo. So that's according to Corriere dello Sport. We are looking at 19-year-old midfielder Ebrima. He's called Ebrima Dabo, and he's playing with Roma. So finally, Arsenal now doing Arsenal things. So I remember when I was speaking about Bissouma, was it, if I'm gonna get my facts right, I think it was 2 weeks ago, because this week I've literally been switched off. But 2 weeks ago, I said we've been linked with Bissouma, but I won't be very surprised if Arsenal eventually do not sign Bissouma, and we sign someone that is low key, and we go for low key strikers, low key players, and I think it's happening now. We are being linked with with Dabo, 19 years of age, very good age in terms of what Arsenal want to do, because we have already been notified that Arsenal wants to go for players 19 years. I mean young players, 19 years, 20 years, 21 years, 22 years, 23 years. That's the range we want to go for, because we want to build a project. So understand, and it wouldn't do us any bad if we brought in Ebrima Dabo. Actually, we have a whole season. We are lucky because we have a whole season to groom our players before we can go back to serious competition. I don't think we are going to make it to the UEFA Conference League like many people want to. I mean, I understand many Arsenal fans want us to qualify for the Conference League. The truth is, I don't want the club to qualify for the Conference League. Let us accept it's been a poor season, and let us face the consequences. The problem with Arsenal fans, and this is one big problem you guys have to work on, is you don't want to face the consequences of a poor season. Many Arsenal fans don't want to accept the consequences of a poor season. What we want to do is find our way into the Europa League, find our way into the UEFA Conference League, find some relevance. The thing is, we've been irrelevant this season, and we've got to face the consequences. The consequences are, we will not play in the Europa League, we will not play in the Champions League, we will not be represented anywhere in Europe. So that's it. I'm not surprised that we're linked with the likes of Dabo, those low key players. The reason is Arsenal. That is their budget. That's our budget. That's the budget that we always run. So you don't expect Arsenal to be linked with Neymar or those kinds of players. I don't expect that to happen. So the likes of Dabo, the likes of Kamavinga, all those players, gonna be an intermarriage of stories. So expect a lot of speculation with Arsenal, and at the end we shall see who signs and who doesn't sign. I want to talk about Joe Willock in a minute as well. He's been in the news with his 30 million pound deal to Newcastle. Well, what should I say about Willock? I don't know. I mean, I've never believed in him as a player who is fit for Arsenal. And I'm glad for him that he's working and doing well at Newcastle. I think the more he does better, the more Arsenal gain. Because if a player like Joe Willock is performing well at a club like at Newcastle, they would want to buy him. I think he's done so well there. He's bonded so well with the likes of Shelby, the likes of Miguel Almiron, and a couple of other players there, the likes of Saint Maxim. They would want to keep him. £30 million. It might be unrealistic, really. It might be unrealistic, but I'm looking at a deal in the region of around 20 million or 25 million pounds. And like I said, these are deals that have to be done for us to bring in more players. The Crookies are never going to give us 100 million. They're never going to give us 90 million. All they're going to do is give us around 45 million or 50 million. The rest of the 50 is for us to search for. So now the club has not been having funds throughout the whole season, so we have not made much money in terms of match day revenue, and 40% of Arsenal's revenue comes from match days. So with fans out of the stadiums, it really means we are gonna need to sell to buy. So the likes of Joe Willock, the likes of Edin Ketia, the likes of maybe Granit Xhaka, maybe Alexander Lacazette, we might need to take difficult decisions if we are gonna recruit the right player. So Willock, I would sell him 20 million and above. I would sell him. I don't see him have a future at Arsenal. If you're recruiting players like EMI Buendia, you've got to recruit the right players around them. That's the truth. Willock is not quality. I mean, it's very harsh of me, but he's not quality. I've seen people say Lingard is quality. I mean, at times I think I get my things wrong, but I don't think they're quality. I don't think Willock is that quality that should be playing with Arsenal. If I'm wrong, I stand to be corrected, but I don't think Willock is that quality. Unless otherwise. Let me see what you people are saying in the chat. Calvin is saying, Kosi, happy to see you. Can you update me on the Jack Grealish transfer? I don't know why you people and many people are actually asking me about this transfer. Jack Grealish. I don't know where the stories are coming from, but it must be very interesting. It must be very, very interesting that you guys are listening in from from sources that Grealish is going to join Arsenal. Okay, I've spoken about my mind. I've spoken my mind out on the deal. I've said I don't see that deal happen. I'm not being negative. I don't see the deal happen. First and foremost, we were linked with the Daniel takeover, and the reason as to why the Grealish moves came out, the Haaland deals came out, I think, as well. The reason is we were linked with a big money takeover, and many people expect that if you have such a takeover, the person buying you is gonna invest money. That is the reason as to why we're linked with those players, the likes of Grealish. Realistically, as an Arsenal fan who understands how our business model works, we are struggling to raise money for EMI Buendia, who is 35-40 million pounds. Grealish is not in our league. That's the truth. Grealish is not in our league, and according to all the sources that I do follow, think about Grealish as a smoke screen, because all reports said Kroenke is gonna break the bank, and they linked us with Jack Grealish. I've done that. I've done a video about Grealish, and I said, if you want to see Grealish at Arsenal, you need to live longer to see Arsenal in the post-Kroenke era. So the Grealish deal, there is nothing exciting about it. Nothing, absolutely nothing exciting about him, unless there is something you people know that I don't know. But according to the credible sources, Romano, Ornstein, Charles Watts, that deal is not gathering anymore at the time. I think the only players that Arsenal are looking at genuinely at this point in time is Kamavinga, Aarons, Bissouma, and Buendia. I think those are the four genuine transfers we can I can stand here and say, I can sit here and say these ones are a little bit genuine. Cheza says, Onana, is he coming? This is Wezi. Why did I say Cheza? It is Wezi asking about Andre Onana. Now, I talked about Andre Onana before, and I said his deal is a little bit difficult. Yes, we want to do the deal, and I'm happy that we want to do the deal because he's a top class goalkeeper. But currently, he has a UEFA ban. That's the first thing you have to know. He has a UEFA ban at the moment. He used some drugs or substances that were against the rules. So if Arsenal is gonna do that deal, it might not be an easy one, like we expect or we want it to be. But Leno's confirmed that he wants to stay. He might be staying. So I don't expect a lot of pressure from for Arsenal to go for a goalkeeper. But if there is anything that happens, I think Onana will be one of the options that Arsenal will be looking at in that regard. Okay. What they say is just sell Joe Willock at £35 million. I mean, Arsenal fans we Arsenal fans are very, very funny. We want to sell the likes of Joe Willock at £35 million, but we want to buy Bissouma at less than £35 million. Realistically, Joe Willock is not £35 million, even if he's English. You're saying when will the transfer window open? We have 40 days to officially open the window, so we've got to wait for that as well. Then Ryan says Arsenal is big for the Cronkies. Realistically, they should let the club alone. Otherwise, they'll bring new quality. They should let the club alone. Otherwise, they will not bring in new quality players. You've talked about that before, and I think you're just spot on. Fury, you're saying high costs, the way Arsenal do their business of buying, they will not change. It's the owners. It's all about the ownership. It all about, it all goes down to the ownership at the club, and it's never gonna change. It's never gonna change unless you get new owners. Arsenal and the way we do business, it's never gonna end. It's never gonna change. It's not that easy. If you have owners who are stingy, that's how you're gonna do your transfer business. If you have owners, who want to invest, that's how you're gonna do your transfer business. I'll be back at 7 and we shall discuss very, very many things. Here says we all gonna do better next. We are gonna do better next season. That's what we expected this season. That's what we expected, and it didn't happen. So that is Arsenal, isn't it? That is Arsenal. I mean, at times we wanna be realistic, and at times we don't want to be realistic. But I think at the end of the day, we've got to be realistic. Arsenal is never gonna be great again in the next 5 years. It's not gonna happen. When will the season begin? Oh, that's a very good question. That's a very it's a typical Arsenal fan question. Well, then when will the new season begin? The new season begins August. I think it is August 20th. Is that it? Let me just try to look for new season, just to be when does the new EPL season begin? We just try to look for that. The 2021-2022 Premier League season will start on 14th August. So the new season starts on 14th August. Yeah, that's it. 14th August. And like always, I think like the way we've been in the past 5 years, we've got to keep our hopes high. Be optimistic that we shall finish in the top 4 or top 3, and then at the end of the season we shall finish 6th or 7th or 8th. I mean, I'm no longer surprised. I'm really no longer surprised. Nothing can surprise me on Arsenal unless it's so positive. But that is the transfer update around the club, guys. Unless there is someone asking question. Layla says, let Arteta leave the club. At the moment, I don't think, in terms of transfers, I don't think he's the problem. Actually, if there is anyone supporting the club in terms of transfers and negotiation, it's Mikel Arteta. So we are lucky at the moment to have him. So we need him in terms of negotiation. Any other question I've not looked at the moment? Thank you so much, Geoff. Thank you so much for tuning in as well. Yeah, I think we've looked at many of your questions. Dennis said, I think Bissouma, Buendia, and Max Aarons. Yeah, those are the realistic targets at the moment. I don't think they're the players that will sign eventually. Ryan says, let's stop hurting some players at the club like TNE. I mean, there is no way you're gonna stop I mean, the only way you're gonna stop hurting players like KNT who really love the club, who are patriotic, is by signing more quality players, winning things. That is not Arsenal's target at the moment. I'm going to sign out, and I'll speak to you at 7.